and Jaapie Badenhorst were third in Class E, but were about to be overtaken by Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep, which started 49th. De Villiers and Jordan were the first to arrive at the midway service point, but their lead had been cut to less than a minute. Long-range fuel tanks and a trouble-free run meant they didn't have to stop. Woolridge and Scholthammer enter the service point 58 seconds behind the leaders, and they too didn't stop for fuel. The race was well and truly on. Unlike the front-running teams, Reineke and Houghton had to stop for repairs to the Castrol Toyota steering wheel, which cost them over 3 minutes. The Grobler-Nissen had run out of brakes towards the end of the first lap, and valuable time would be lost while the problem was attended to.
Yeah, we've been going very well, and about 50 k's out, the brakes started going, so we turned the brakes all to the front to try and get a little bit, and that's lasted a while, and we kept catching. We on RP's tail, and then we went brakes altogether, no brakes altogether, about 30 k's out. And we just had to take it carefully to get here. But I see Oppie's just left. He's a minute and a half ahead of us now. If we leave in another minute, catch him in 50 k's.
Grobler and Leek lost a place to Foss and Griffith, who had no need to stop. A quick driver change for the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep, which had moved up from 49th place at the start to 8th at the midway point. The Class D battle was hotting up with any one of 6 crews, including the Van der Merwes and Dion Skuman, capable of walking away with a class win. The faster, better handling Class T vehicles had come into their own on the Queen Motorspares Tarka 400 and occupied 6th of the top 10 position. Proudly South African Nissen pair Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan were in a class of their own and continue to lead from Neil Woolridge and Ken Scholthammer in the Team Ford Racing Ranger. Woolridge wasn't happy with the handling of the Ford, which deteriorated as their fuel load reduced. With his confidence in the steering on the Toyota fully restored, Reineke was able to pile on the pressure. Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith were now 4th overall and close enough to Reineke and Houghton to mount a challenge for 3rd place. Production Vehicle Championship leaders Grobler and Leek could have done without the brake problems, which seriously hampered their attempt at gaining the lead from their teammates and extending their record to 8 consecutive wins. Rotax Max World Karting champion Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin had a clean run in the Castrol Toyota Hilux and were more than 3 minutes ahead of the next Class E challenger. Cliff and Louis Weisholt had matters under control in Class D, with the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser performing faultlessly. Steyn and Seegers soldiered on in the 2nd place Class E Toyota Hilux KZTE, but had Cassie Coetzee and Oki Fari closing in fast in the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE. Coetzee started 50th after blowing a head gasket in the prologue and had moved up to 3rd after a storming drive through the field. The Toyota would later lose front-wheel drive. MC Coetzee and Marius Liebenberg took advantage of GBS Nissen teammates Coetzee Labuskaghni and Johan Gerber's ball joint problems to snatch 2nd place in Class D. De Villiers and Jourdan had a scare when they picked up a puncture. Onboard hydraulic jacks proved to be their savior, and they were able to change the wheel in a phenomenal 1 minute 38 seconds, which allowed Woolridge and Scholthammer to close within 22 seconds of them. Woolridge and Scholthammer decided to consolidate their position and settle for second place because they felt it was too risky to try to overtake the Nissan on the narrow tracks where there was no margin for error. The official Nissan Supporters Club was out in force and eagerly awaited the arrival of the other Class T Nissans. Reinecke and Harton were still third, but faced a double challenge. They were being held up by Greg Harvey and Daniel Ford and had Foss and Griffith nipping at their heels. Only seconds separated the Toyota and the Nissan, and with a third of the race to go, the scene was set for an interesting finale in the production vehicle battle. Reinecke managed to get by Harvey a few kilometers later and started to open a gap on Foss, who now had Harvey in his sights. Foss and Griffith made short work of Harvey and set off after the third-place Toyota. R.P. Reinecke and Robin Houghton threw caution to the wind and pushed the Toyota, which the team lays claim to being the fastest Land Cruiser in the world, to the limit. Depending on the wind direction, Foss and Griffith would close right onto the Toyota, but then be forced to drop back because of poor visibility. Despite gearbox problems in the closing stages of the Queen Motor Spares Tarka 400, Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek were on a charge and hell-bent on reclaiming fourth place. Cronje and Birken were sixth overall, and the Class E leaders in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i, which had not missed a beat all day. Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn were seventh in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep after starting 49th. The suspension on the American-built vehicle was well suited to the roller coaster conditions that prevailed for much of the route. Despite picking up a puncture, Cliff and Louis Weichelt pressed on and were eighth overall in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser. Castrol Toyota crew Kasi Coetzee and Oki Fari were ninth overall and second in Class E, with Hannes Steen and Ferdy Seegers 10th. There was no catching Janelle De Villiers and Francois Jourdan as they stormed to a flag-to-flag victory on the Queen Motor Spares Tarka 400. Neil Woolridge and Ken Scholthammer had settled for second in the Team Ford Racing Ranger and trailed the proudly South African Nissan by 3 minutes. R.P. Reinecke and Robin Houghton were third in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, almost 30 minutes behind the leading Nissan. Foss and Griffith got lost close to the finish, which allowed Grobler and Leek to nip by into fourth spot. Grobler had closed within 4 minutes of the third-place Toyota and was only 2 seconds ahead of teammates Foss and Griffith. Cronje and Birken never relinquished the Class E lead and went on to finish sixth overall in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i. Seventh overall went to Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep. The Weichelts valiantly held on to 8th place and the Class D lead. They finished the event with one tire in shreds. Kasi Kutsia and Oki Fari came from 50th to 9th overall and second in Class E in the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE. Another solid performance by the veteran rally and off-road driver. Tenth placed Hannes Steen and Ferdy Segers completed the event with a malfunctioning turbo on their Toyota Hilux KZTE. In his best performance to date, rookie Leon Skuman and Jeremy Fall finished 11th overall and second in Class D in the top car Nissan hardbody. Johan and Martinez van der Merwe had a day they'd rather forget. Despite broken engine mountings, broken spare wheel brackets, and Martinez getting car sick, they finished 12th overall and third in Class D. They were followed home by brothers Mark and Stuart Moffat in the Class D McCarthy Land Rover. Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst went on to finish 14th overall and 4th in Class D in the Toyota Hilux. Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham lost time when they had to replace a broken torsion bar on the Class E Team Ford Racing Ranger. They went on to finish 15th overall ahead of Class F leaders Andre Buerter and Beans Heidenrich in the O'Hagan's Kopenhagen Hotel Super Team Chev, who went on to finish their first event and win Class F. JP and Linda Augustine survived fuel pump and front diff problems to finish 17th in the GBS Racing Nissan, while teammates Kusia Labuskachny and Francois Gerber broke a ball joint on the GBS Racing Nissan, but luck was on their side. They came across the stricken Nissan of teammate Hein Grobler and stripped a ball joint from his car to fit to theirs and went on to finish 18th ahead of another of their teammates, MC Kutsia and Marius Liebenberg, who were plagued with engine management problems. Niels and Zelda van der Walt have a never-say-die attitude and nursed their overheating Class E Nissan hardbody home in 20th place. Pitt Haasbroek and Freddie Skippers lost 2 hours replacing a front wheel knuckle on the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and were the last classified finishers. Talk about perseverance. The finish was in sight for de Villiers St. Jordan, and they could celebrate their first victory in 8 starts and Nissan's 12th consecutive win. Grobler and Leake's record run had been broken, but would not be easily equaled.
I must say it's good again, man. I think it's been 6 or 7 or 8 months since I've last won a race, so it's definitely the best way to do it. And I'm very happy for Nissan and for the team because the guys worked very hard last night. We had a few small problems, but in the end it paid off today, and I'm very happy for them.
There was also much to celebrate in the Team Ford camp, with Woolridge and Scholthammer coming home second overall. The Ford Ranger proved it had the pace, and now all the team had to do was sort out the handling.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic race. I really love this race. It's rough. It's got everything in it. It's really been great. Unfortunately, setup on the suspension, we still need to sort out a little bit. The light of the car got the worse it kicked, and we only really feel it on a really rough race like this. So we've got some adjustments to make, but yeah, Nissan did well. I think we stuck within 2 minutes, a minute, 30 seconds all day. So we just couldn't make it, But a great race, very nice.
Apart from the steering hub problem, R.P. Reinecker and Robin Houghton had a clean run in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and were quite satisfied with their and their vehicle's performance.
It handled quite well. There's still a lot of, for me, as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot we can do to this car. We just need time to get the right settings on the suspension. So we had a good race, clean race, except that we had to stop for about 10 minutes. Our steering wheel came loose and we had to fix that, but otherwise we had a clean race.
The odds of an 8th consecutive win were heavily stacked against Hannes Grobler and Richard Leake. And conversely, the odds of anyone matching their record-breaking feat are rather slim.
We've got 7 in a row till the previous one, and Janelle won now, and we'll see if anybody else is going to be able to break our record. We're just going to try not to let anybody do it, but we'll see on the next one. We're happy where we finished.
Teammates Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith came in 5th overall.
I think in these space frames, you know, those guys, everyone is trying so hard, and you really don't know if someone is behind you or not. So we gave him the benefit of the doubt for KO2, but then RP was starting to get away a little bit, and we had to nudge him, but I'm sure it wasn't a problem for him or for us.
Castrol Toyota pair Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin finished 6th overall and notched up their 3rd Class E win of the season.
Well, I must say I enjoyed it a hell of a lot because we didn't get stuck in too much dust, and it was a nice clean run. We can't complain, no punctures, just kept it on the road and pushed it a little bit towards the end, and that was it. Came to the end.
The Class D win went to father and son Cliff and Louis Weisholt in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser. They finished the event with a right rear tyre in shreds.
We're going well this morning. It was a bit dusty. Struggled to get past the guys, and eventually they let us past. And then we had a clean run the first round, and we got into the pits. We had a flat wheel stabilizer that was broken, and then swapped the wheel, went out, and then we had halfway in the second stage we had 2 flats at the same time, so we've used up all the flats. And then about 80 k's from the end, the accelerator link broke off the injector pump, so we had to modify that first. Otherwise we had a clean run.
A maiden race finish and Class F win for Andre Buerter and Beans Haydenrecht in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Super Team Chef.
Oh, I feel great. I'm tired, but it's thanks to all the help that we had from all the other guys, from the team, and from everybody, and it was really great. Thanks very much. And of course, thanks to Beans, who guided me through all the way. Without him, we couldn't have done it.
The S closely contested